Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Ray Kaufman, and I'm bringing you all something I haven't done in a while. I did one video of this series, and then they disappeared. So I am going to do today a Let's Talk About video. Today we're going to talk about retro anime versus current day anime. The differences and kind of what made one really great and the other, We'll talk about it here in a minute. So I guess first up what we'll talk about is, I've told this story many times. If y'all see me at shows or you saw the Vampire Hunter D Let's Talk About, you're probably going to know where I'm going with this. My first experience with retro style anime, the early stuff, was Vampire Hunter D. It's what kind of got my love and passion for creating going and drawing weird monsters and characters and all that kind of stuff. So I have a special place in my heart for that. It all started when I'm originally from a little town called Harrodsburg, Kentucky. A few thousand people lived there, at least when I was a kid. I don't know how big it is now, but probably more. There was a little mom and pop video store. There were two of them called Pick-a-Flick and Film Factory. Dad picked up a bad bootleg dub of Vampire Hunter D, but it was called Monster Hunter. And the voice acting was horrible from what I remember. But I was in love with the concept and the story, the characters, the creatures and things like that. I've always been a big fan of Gothic horror, even since I was a little kid. So that kind of got me into it. And then years later, when Urban Vision did their dub and put out the DVD special edition, I found it again. Of course, I found it previously on Sci-Fi Channel. I knew it was called Vampire Hunter D before the DVD came out. I learned that. But that started my love for this. And then, of course, in the early 90s, when you had the advent of video gaming, like Super Nintendo, Genesis, Sega Genesis, all of that, they had their role-playing games. They would have anime-style cutscenes, manga art. It was just like a picture with like a moving background and the words. But I was in love with that art style. I absolutely loved it. I can remember Ninja Gaiden kind of had that going on. There were a few other video games. I think there was a port of like a Ranma Super Nintendo game or something like that. And then Valis 1, 2, and 3 on Sega Genesis. Loved those games. And that was manga style art. And the villains in those games all had this crazy retro futuristic samurai look to them. Instantly in love with that art style. So that's kind of what started me down the path. And then, of course, in the mid-90s, when a little bit of anime started sneaking into the States, you know, it would show up at 1 or 2 in the morning on Sci-Fi Channel. It would show up late night on different cable channels and stuff. You would have, like, of course, Vampire Hunter D. You had Ninja Scroll. You had Ghost in the Shell. Neon Genesis Evangelion started sneaking its way over here. And then you had the big boom that was brought in by Dragon Ball Z. And then, of course, you had the classic Space Cowboy trilogy with Cowboy Bebop, Outlaw Star, Trigun, which are classics. Of course, Outlaw Star is the lesser-known cousin, but that is probably my favorite of the bunch, believe it or not. Outlaw Star is amazing. And Outlaw Star really started me down the path of looking at how to... It was a master study in character design. The characters in Outlaw Star look so different and so crazy, and the alien designs are so amazing in it, and the ship designs and the way the ship combat works. It's mind-blowing that it only got 26 episodes, because it feels like it's about 100 because you got so much content in there. When you think back about that series, you're like, oh, it was only 26 episodes. Yeah, and Bebop was only 25 or 26 episodes, and Trigun was only 26 episodes. And that could be why my fondness for those series are still there, because they were so short and so sweet, and you really didn't you didn't get like an oversaturation of them. So basically, I love retro anime, and there's a lot of current stuff that I really like too. But there's so much of the current stuff. There is so much of it, and I'm going to be honest. In my humble opinion, especially as a creator, a lot of the newer stuff that I've watched is not on the level of some of the older stuff. And here's why. Hear me out. I'm not digging the characters. From a character standpoint, I'll get into that here a little bit later. But there is so much of it, and you can take it all in. There, like back in the day, with the retro anime, doing the whole retro versus current, you had to go on a treasure hunt for it. You had to find it. You had to stumble upon it. You had to accidentally find it in a video shop. And when you found it and showed it to your friends, you were kind of like, "Yes, I found this was my find." You know, it's like when the explorers were first discovering America and the different places. You know, oh, I found the Rocky Mountains. I stumbled into this or whatever. Of course, the Native Americans were here first. We all know that, but it was your find. You shared that with people, and you know everybody was like, "Oh, that's the one that Ray introduced me to," or "Oh, that's the one that Brian introduced me to," or something like that. You know, so. But now with the current stuff, there's all these apps. There's Crunchyroll. There's Funimation. There's all these places online where you can go watch. You can go into a place that a website that streams anime and new stuff, and just from today, there will be 40 to 50 things that just came out today, that day. So if you get backlogged on 4 shows, forget it. You're not catching up. You gotta watch podcasters or YouTubers talk about it and stuff like that because you cannot catch up. There's a lot of things that I can't catch up on right now that I do enjoy right now. My buddy Bryce, shout out to Bryce Omquai, a buddy of mine. We were talking this Saturday about some of the new stuff. My Hero Academia, I actually like it. The first time I watched it, I did not like it. I didn't care for the art style. It wasn't very unique to me, but I watched it and I dug it. So I'm gonna try and catch up on that as I'm doing studio work and let it play in the background or whatever. But to kind of get back on track a little bit, yeah, I mean current anime you can find anywhere. Retro, you had to go find it, and if you found it, that was the one that you found. You know, so. And it kind of made it a little more appreciated because I'm sure in Japan they had hundreds and hundreds of shows on, but we didn't get all those shows. We only got a few, you know. Like a friend of mine had to introduce me to Fushigi Yugi, which is, yeah, it's a kind of a girl's story, but the characters in it are just amazing, and I really dug those characters. And that's another show that got me into knowing the importance of writing characters properly. You can have 5 characters in a show. If those characters are written well, designed well, and you connect with them, you don't need 50 characters in a story. So, and that's something else now. I find that there are a lot of shows that have a whole lot of characters in there, and it's hard to focus on just one, you know. And they're not just backstanding supporting characters. I mean, you know, they have a lot of influence in what's going on. A few series like that. My series Aurora, I draw. It's got a lot of characters in it, but it's going to take a long time to tell it. So you're going to get to know those characters. But yeah, I mean, retro versus current. Again, it was one of those things where retro there wasn't a lot of it. Current, there's a ton of it. So you know you can dive in. You'll never catch up. So unless you watch it all the time. And also for me personally, I feel like old school anime. It looked grittier. It wasn't digitally produced. It just looked grittier. It was hand drawn. The hand painted cells. They and the character designs were really taken strongly from the original manga creators' style. If you look at Berserk, Outlaw Star, Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, of course, was an anime first. It wasn't a manga first. But if you look at the ones that were manga first, Neon Genesis Evangelion, all those shows really drew heavily from the art style of their original creator. A lot of the current stuff I'm seeing, a lot of it is originally produced as a show, so there's no manga in place. So what falls into tending to happen is a lot of those styles look the same. Like I could watch Sword Art Online. And now this one I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if it was a show first or a manga first. I think it was a manga first, but I can watch Sword Art Online, then I can go watch Assassination Classroom, and then I can watch Durarara, and I'm like, this style all looks the same. I feel like if I didn't know better, I could watch one episode of something and then just not paying attention to what's going on in the show, but just looking at it, and I would maybe think that it's the same show. I mean, and that's one of the things that I dig about current mangaka and art studios like My Hero Academia, Hunter x Hunter. Of course, that's been going on for a long time. Even when Bleach and Naruto were running, I could look at those art styles and I could be like, okay, this is Kishimoto Musashi. This is Tite Kubo. You know, this is this person. This is that person. Those are the current shows I like, when I can tell a difference in the artwork and the art style and the storytelling and the pacing. A lot of it runs together. So I think that's another comparison. Is back in the day, of course, there was probably a lot of it back in the day, but we weren't exposed to a lot of it. So they kind of pick and choose which ones came over here. Of course, you look at Akira Toriyama's work. You know who that is. You play Dragon Warrior, or you play Dragon Quest. It was called Dragon Warrior over here in the early time when it came out. But you play Dragon Quest, you look at Dragon Ball, you're like, oh, that's Akira Toriyama. I know exactly who that is. But and a lot of these other artists, you don't know what their style is. If I look at Yosuhiro Naito, who did Trigun, who did Gungrave, and I look at some other creators, Kentaro Miura, Berserk, you know their style when you see it. So that's another comparison right there, because you just didn't know back in the day what you were getting when you popped open that VHS tape. Now you can open up an app, boom, you've got thousands at your disposal. The themes too, retro anime, kind of that early mid 90s, late 90s stuff, had dark themes. I mean, now the shows today, they still have dark themes, but they're not as like, we're all going to school together themed, you know? Like, you had people that were from rough and rugged pasts that were interacting with younger, more bright-eyed, the world is my oyster type characters. Like, you look at Berserk, Guts, he went through the ringer. I don't want to spoil it. This is not a spoiler-heavy thing, but, you know, he goes through the ringer. He gets introduced to some of these newer, younger characters who didn't go through the things he went through. So you're still seeing that dark contrast with this lighter contrast of some of these characters who don't quite get where he's coming from because they didn't go through it. So you're getting a little bit of meat for both sides of people who want like a more hopeful story and a darker story. You look at Trigun. Of course, if you haven't seen Trigun, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but main character, he's hiding some stuff. He's experienced. He's older. You know, he's older than some of the characters around him. The characters around him are younger, you know, early mid-20s. You know, he's a little bit older. He's been through some things. You look at, what would be another good example of that? Oh, Rurouni Kenshin. Oh my God, Rurouni Kenshin. Fantastic show. I did a piece of art for Rurouni Kenshin here recently. I did a commission for a guy from a show. He wanted one of the characters, and I wanted to do a Kenshin after that. But that got me watching the show again. And man, you know, Batosai, he went through a lot. He's experienced, you know, but then he came into some younger characters who aren't too experienced, and they get to experience things through him, and as he's like reconciling his past and things like that. So you had a lot of examples like that of different anime throughout time. Vampire Hunter D, he's been through a lot, but he's not the main character of each individual story he's in. If you want to know more about my breakdown on Vampire Hunter D, you can go back and watch the Let's Talk About on Vampire Hunter D. But he's always in the mix with younger characters who hasn't seen the things he's seen when he takes on different jobs, but he has. So again, you've got experienced characters with not so experienced characters. Some of the current anime that I watch, like, you do have experienced characters in there, but they're just like teachers or sensei or something who aren't really focused on, you know, unless you read the manga and you get their backstory. But in the main context of the show, they're not focused on. You just see all these young people who are up and learning and everything. And that's great, you know, if that's what you like. And I do enjoy that to a certain degree, but when it seems like everything coming out is that, you know, but again, it's one of those situations where the anime company's like, hey, this sells, this works, it's proven to sell and work, let's do this. There needs to be more variety there. And if there is more variety, I just haven't seen it. Maybe you all can tell me in the comments below. Throw me some suggestions, you know, maybe we can talk about that some other time. But yeah, I would love to see some more mix of a main character who's experienced, he or she has been through some things, and, you know, and then some of the younger characters they're palling around with, you know, and they learn as well. So you can do both in a story, but it just seems to me like current studios know what will sell to the market right now, and they're trying to get that out. So, but yeah, the focal characters, I would like to see more focal characters who have been through some things, experienced some things, and they're kind of telling that story. It's a little bit more of a laborious storytelling practice. You have to do a little bit more of the storytelling, but that makes a better story. It really does. It just puts it out there on a different level, and it makes a very level, one-dimensional story. All of a sudden, you've got many levels of story there, and it makes it better, and it makes all the characters in the story better, and it makes for a more enjoyable entertainment experience. So that's one of the reasons I like that old retro style of storytelling. So I just want the characters to not seem so similar. But a lot of it, like Assassination Classroom, I watched that a little bit. People loved it. Again, I just kind of felt like it was one of those things where, and Soul Eater, people loved it. Again, I was like, these people are all just learning and stuff. Where's the experienced character and a non-villain, like a heroic, and that's why one of the things people bag on Fairy Tail, but I do like Fairy Tail because they do have those experienced characters who are focused on from time to time. And like when the younger characters start messing up and start tripping over their own feet, they have to come in and say, hey, no, this is how we're going to do it. This is what I've been through. I've got my own demons, let's get through this together, and then you'll focus on them for a few episodes or chapters or whatever. And I really like that. So I'm going to wrap this up here. If you all have any opinions, put it in the comment section below. Let's talk about it. If you have some ideas on some future Let's Talk About episodes you'd like to see or get my opinion on, or if you hate my opinion, you want to let me know. Let me know. I love people who have a different opinion than me, and it's also fun to talk about people who agree with me because we can just jive and just talk about stuff we love. But if you have a different opinion than me, let me know, and maybe you'll win me over. Maybe you'll let me see that something I missed in some of these episodes. Now, I'm not bagging on current stuff. There is some current stuff that I do like. Some of those things I mentioned, some of them I didn't get into because I don't want this video to run too long. But yeah, just let me know what you think. Put some comments down there. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you get more of these Let's Talk About videos. I got some more on tap, some more I'll be shooting today and releasing in the next coming weeks. But definitely let me know what you think. Again, just subscribe, leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you all next time. Take it easy.